Well, good morning, everyone. One morning, a couple of days before Christmas, my wife went to put her coffee cup in the dishwasher. And when she opened the dishwasher, the control panel came off right in her hand. It was crazy. I mean, she hadn't exerted any extra force or strength. It had reached the end of its life and came off. Now, this was a bit of a problem for us because, well, we were having guests over for Christmas Eve dinner, but also our two sons were in town staying with us, and so we were generating double our normal amount of dirty dishes at that time. But problems are made to be solved. And I, like many of you, have developed a problem-solving toolkit over the years that I can use in situations like this. And so I went right to it. First thing I did is I went to YouTube. I got to search for videos, how to repair your dishwasher. Now, if you've ever done anything like that, you know that you can easily get pulled into this black hole of video after video with something similar to, but not exactly what you're looking for. And that happened to me. I mean, it just devoured a couple of hours, it seemed. But eventually, I felt like I learned enough to move forward with this project. So the next step was to get a replacement part. I needed to replace that control panel. So I started checking that out and learned that, no, it's not one part I need. It's like a half a dozen parts. They sell it in components. And two of them are no longer available. They don't make them anymore. So I'm starting to really get frustrated and sort of stressed, right? I can't fix this dishwasher. Christmas is in a couple of days. What are we going to do without a dishwasher? But no problem. Go to step 3 in the problem-solving toolkit. So Carrie and I went shopping for a dishwasher. Now, I don't know if you have recently shopped for a dishwasher, but it is a little bit overwhelming. I mean, there are hundreds of different kinds of dishwashers out there. I don't know how to tell what's a good one or what's a bad one. Pretty easy to tell the cheap ones from the expensive ones. But we did our research and we picked one out that we liked and went to order it. Oh, it's on back order. Maybe we could get it by the 4th of July. Okay, no problem. We look again, find another similar one. Go to order that one. That's on super back order. We might get it by next Christmas. And this happened a couple more times. I'm really starting to get frustrated and kind of stressed. I'm thinking I'm going to be washing dishes by hand for the rest of my life. And all the while, this broken dishwasher will be mocking me while I'm doing it. But we continued to search, and we did find a dishwasher that fit our needs, was in stock. We ordered it, had it delivered and installed. And so a little more than a week after the dishwasher broke, my problem-solving skills proved successful. Not without stress, not without frustration, but successful nonetheless. And we had a new dishwasher. And this is what we do. Right? By and large, we are problem solvers in one way or another. We solve problems at work, in our personal lives, in our family lives, in every aspect of our life. And we learn these problem-solving skills from people we know and trust. We learn them through experience. And we can learn one of the most important lessons about solving problems from the Blessed Virgin Mary. Unfortunately, it's a lesson that I did not employ in solving my dishwasher problem, but we learn it in the gospel passage we just heard, the wedding feast at Cana. Now, this is a familiar story. I'm sure we've all heard this story multiple times. Jesus is at this wedding feast with his disciples and with Mary, his mother. And Mary learns of a problem that the bride and groom are facing. They have run out of wine. And to solve this problem, Mary goes directly to Jesus. She doesn't hesitate. And it is amazingly effective. Jesus, of course, works his first of what John calls his first sign, this miracle of turning the water into wine for the wedding feast. And I am embarrassed to say that when I had my problem with the dishwasher, I didn't do that, right? So Mary teaches us, first go to Jesus. I didn't do that. I'm a deacon, for crying out loud. You think I would know, start with prayer. But in this case, I didn't. Honestly, if I had started with prayer, I'm not sure that Jesus would have worked a water and wine style miracle on my dishwasher. I mean, it would have been cool if he did. I'm not sure it would have changed the timeline or the steps that I took, but I do think that it would have reduced the amount of stress and frustration that I experienced through that whole process. But in the grand scheme of things, a broken dishwasher is not the biggest problem in the world. I think it can be solved basically with a little bit of time and some money. Sometimes we encounter more serious, more difficult problems. Now, a few years ago, a friend of mine was having some difficulty in his marriage. I mean, there was no infidelity, but he and his wife were arguing a lot. And he told me that he felt like they were drifting apart. And I could see the toll it was taking on him. He was depressed, he was irritable and discontent. And I think they went to see a counselor, but really didn't get much headway there. So one day he told me he had found a solution to this problem. He was going to see a lawyer and file for divorce. And that's what he did. And they got divorced, but it didn't solve the problem. I mean, they continued to argue. He was still depressed and irritable and discontent. Maybe even more so because now his children were living with his wife and he could only see them on the weekends. But then one day, a year or two after they got divorced, they decided to follow the example of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Now, they didn't put it in those exact words, but they went to Jesus. They decided to pray together. Now, this is a Christian couple, but they hadn't been to church in years. But when they decided to go to Jesus, to bring this problem to Jesus, to pray together about their relationship, they began to mend that relationship. And they reconciled. And they remarried one another. And to this day, they're still married happily. Now, they didn't go to Jesus first, but when they finally did, Jesus worked a miracle in their lives. And I can only imagine the pain and suffering that could have been saved had they gone to Jesus first. So what about you? When you encounter a problem, do you follow Mary's example and go to Jesus first? Or do you do like I did with my dishwasher and bypass Jesus, go straight to the problem-solving toolkit? Honestly, I'm about 50-50. Half the time I begin with prayer, I go to Jesus first. The other half, I'm just off to the races. But you know, it really doesn't take a whole lot to begin with Jesus. We can, whenever we encounter a problem, whether it's a big problem or a small problem, we can begin with this simple prayer. Jesus, I turn this problem over to you. Guide me to a solution. And so this week, for your homework, I invite you to learn this simple prayer. In fact, we can begin to learn it now. So repeat after me. Jesus, I turn this problem over to you. Guide me to a solution. Let's do it again all together. Jesus, I turn this problem over to you. Guide me to a solution. And so this week, commit to making that simple prayer the first thing in your problem-solving toolkit. I think you will be amazed at how much less stressful and frustrating problems can be when we go to Jesus first.